Something is very strange that such a top employee would know nothing.
The other thing that we now know, that it would only cost $2 to repair. And it was apparently $2 too much for General Motors to act despite a decade of warning.
This is criminal deception.
General Motors CEO Mary Barra taking a bipartisan beating over that deadly recall delay. But what about the government that was bailing the automaker out while the delaying was going on? Taxpayers still out $10 billion in what amounted to a $50 billion deal. Dagan, that's an interesting sort of conundrum right there, as if the government is just backing off on this.
I think that some of those senators who were huge champions of the bailout of GM, who voted for the bailout of General Motors, need to holster those fingers and stop wagging them at the company, talking about the culture of cover-up. Well, you invested in this company. You bailed it out. Where's the due diligence? I just think, I'm not saying that it could have been different, because I was in favor of the auto bailout. It was done at the last minute. But I just find it comical that these senators sit up there and are lambasting the new CEO and scolding the company. You know what? You owned it until the end of last year, at least part of it. It's just a joke.
Charles Payne?
I think it's more than comical. You know, I think it was July 2005, Amber Marie Rose, her car crashed, she died. They investigated. They could see that the key, went from running the engine to running the radio. There were over 100 complaints about the Cobalt. More complaints about that than the Toyota Corolla, which the government insisted was a bomb. Ray LaHood told people not to drive. They took them and they made them recall the stuff. You got to ask yourself, why did they look the other way? Because if this news was out, would we have bailed out General Motors? The idea that they deliberately put out a vehicle that was a piece of junk, that people died from it, and now they need tens of billions of taxpayer dollars. I wonder if someone knew this and they looked the other way to get the bailout
Charles's point,
done.
I do want to say the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in 2007, about 2 years before the actual bailout, had a defect panel it convened and decided to take no action. So that some evidence was certainly in the government's hands that there was a problem there.
There's something called moral hazard here that people aren't getting to, and that's the notion that when you keep bailing out an industry or a business, management gets fat and happy and takes more risk. And that's what happened to the banks. The banks were bailed out many times before the grand bailout. Lower interest rates, smaller bailouts, you name it. That's what's happening here. When you have a business that's been bailed out by the government, management becomes fat, happy, complacent, and stupid, and that's what this is all about.
All right, now I must posit here, we don't know whether they deliberately deceive.
But it doesn't have to be deliberate. It doesn't have to be deliberate.
I understand. But Gary Kaltbaum, the bottom line is this, that it's going to give people pause about GM going forward. Will it not? And would you, as a pretty savvy investor, think twice about buying GM in an environment where people are at least a little bit more cynical about the company?
I think 3 times. Look, if anybody at GM knew of this, I think this should be criminal cause there. This is all bad news. As far as the bankruptcy goes, I think that it would have got done no matter what. Unfortunately, I thought it should have been done a different way, but nothing good is coming from this.
Julie?
Yeah, I mean, look, the problem here is with the bankruptcy laws in this country. It's not so much with GM as an example. The bankruptcy laws in this country insulate you entirely from criminal liability.
But this wasn't a classic bankruptcy, Julie.
Well,
you think about it, we funded, the taxpayers funded this bankruptcy.
Taxpayers funded this, and I agree with Dagan. I supported the bailout for one reason and one reason only, because the ripple effect of the economy would have been much worse. Do I have any sympathy for GM over this? Of course not.
Okay.
So we should be criminally prosecuted.
We could have done a prepackaged bankruptcy.
Well, that was then, this is now, and we're all in a big old fix now. In the meantime, isn't this rich? A rich couple getting food stamps. They were on the run until America's financial superhero ran them down.
Is that a seat?
Is that you?
Cavuto. That's Cavuto.
Built to scale.